We got some Cam Johnson rumors I want to touch on here real quick, guys. Before I show you some fan-submitted trades and the latest in the Cam Johnson sweepstakes, Justin, real quick, because I know you got to leave in 12 minutes, so we'll make this quick around the horn. Do the Cavs need Cam Johnson, or would it just be a luxury in your mind?
I don't think need is the right word. I think it's something worth exploring. I think all options at the deadline are worth exploring, especially when you have some expiring contracts yourself. You need to see what opportunities are out there, and you have to kind of weigh, all right, is this going to be purely additive, or is this going to be kind of jeopardizing the chemistry to some extent? Because I think back to, when the Cavs added Antoine Jameson, that was literally like a no-lose trade from an on-court standpoint, because Ilgauskas ended up coming back. But, it trying to integrate that piece, everything just felt funky for the rest of the year. So I think he would certainly help from a length and shooting standpoint. I think he wouldn't necessarily help in kind of some of those areas of concern where people are like, there's sometimes when they're being ball pressured with length, can they beat that? He's not really one of those tall initiators from the perimeter, but I do think having someone with length, with kind of that shooting touch, and depending on who you're giving up, kind of giving you some depth in the front court when you have such depth and a variety of options in the backcourt, it could potentially help balance the roster.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I don't know, man. I'm kind of in no man's land with Cam. I think he'd help. I think, something that I've talked a lot about, if you listen to our podcast, is pumpkin insurance. In the postseason, a lot, you're going to have a few role players that just turn into pumpkins. So like you need like high level dependable role players that aren't going to do that. We saw last year, they had 2 or 3 guys that just they just can't play. Yeah. With the stars not playing to their level in the form of Darius, and then obviously Jarrett was just hurt. Like it just became too much to overcome. So like I think adding another Strus level role player that I feel like I can really count on to help, even if the shot isn't perfect. Like I think there's value in that. I agree with Justin though, in the sense he's not adding a crazy dimension they don't already have. I think what he's doing is adding a more consistent and polished version of the things that they have. Niang, but with a little bit more defense. Yeah. Wade, but with a little bit more shooting. Like he's kind of an amalgamation of all these guys' strengths, without taking as much off the table at an individual level.
Yeah, I like Cam Johnson. I don't think it's a need because it doesn't solve some of the other issues. It's not a plug in one and now everything's fixed, but you have a lot of guys with replicable skill sets on the bench that aren't 6'8" and don't shoot 42.5% from 3. I was on
volume
cleaning the glass the other day. He's in the 87th percentile in overall 3-point shooting, and he's got the size. If you can get Cam, I think you explore all those options, but I don't think it's if they don't end up with Cam Johnson, it's, oh my God, the Cavs are have no chance anymore. It's a very good
one big benefit with him that isn't really discussed is cost control.
He's a great contract. Great contract.
It's 2-3. I think he's got 2 years after this one.
Correct.
At a pretty reasonable number. Like some people will see that number and be surprised, but just remember, cap's nuts and going up every year. And like what the Cavs really need with a very expensive top 4 is cost control. Is not to have to pay someone $40 million, 2 years from now. So like having a little cost control is valuable, and that should be considered with any trade they look to make.
Cam's contract is in the mid-20s for the next 2 seasons after this. Wait till you see some of the guys in the free agent market that get contracts in the mid-20s to 30s, and there are going to be guys that you say, he got that, and Cam Johnson's making this. Pretty easy. So I'm going to give you guys the latest updates on the Cam Johnson rumors, then show you I have 6 fan-submitted trades, some more realistic than others. We'll just start it with that, and we'll do some live reaction. But the latest news in the Cam Johnson era, this comes from the New York Post. The Nets are seeking 2 first-round picks or the equivalent for Cam Johnson. We have mentioned before the Cavs cannot trade a first-round pick before 2031. The next update comes from Evan Siddery, who says, according to DraftKings Sportsbook, the Cavs are now the favorite to land Cam Johnson, plus 250 odds. The Thunder at plus 280. The Pacers at plus 450. The Kings at 550. And the Grizzlies plus 1,000. We've talked about this at length before, but we do know OKC has a gajillion first-round picks to trade. So if OKC really is interested in Cam Johnson, Kobe
They'll have him.
Yeah, he will be an Oklahoma City Thunder. So let's go through some of these trades. I have 6. These are not in any order from most realistic to least realistic. These are in alphabetical order according to how StreamYard wanted to sort this. So first one comes from Brian Kreinberg, guys. In this deal, he has the Cavs getting Cam Johnson, Drew Eubanks, Deron Sharp, and Patty Mills. He has LeVert and Niang going to Brooklyn. And as a part of a 3-team deal, he has Isaac Okoro heading to Utah. So the Cavs will lose LeVert, Niang, and Okoro, but bring in Cam Johnson, Drew Eubanks, Deron Sharp, and Patty Mills. Justin, thoughts on this initial trade proposal from Brian Kreinberg?
Well, it doesn't seem to meet the asking price of 2 first-round picks or equivalent, right? Like, I think you can make an argument that maybe Okoro could be seen as a first-round pick equivalent, but he's not going to Brooklyn in that deal. So I think right off the bat, that's coming up short.
But my reaction every time I see a 3-teamer is, why is that 3rd team in there? I don't know.
I have a great one coming along those exact. Which one is it? I believe it is this one. Yeah, this one's a little weird. The Cavs in this deal get Cam Johnson and Cam Whitmore. The Nets, George Niang and Jayshawn Tate, and the Rockets get Max Strus in this deal. Carter.
I gotta presume there's like some picks not in there. Yeah. Because the problem with that one is I just think the Nets and the Rockets are probably wanting first-round compensation for either of those guys. The Nets obviously want at least 2, and I got to imagine the Rockets aren't just giving Cam Whitmore away. I know he's kind of unhappy with his role, but fun. But there's also a little weirdness about giving up Strus. That's not really the role player I'm looking to move on from, if I'm honest. Yeah, I don't think either of the other teams are taking that one.
I want to add to what we have in Wade and Strus. I don't want to take away one of them to add shooting.
When I saw this, and it's the same one I had up, I said, why in the world would the Nets do that? And I know sometimes you could add.
Why would the Rockets do that? It's just weird.
I will say, if the Rockets are shipping Cam Whitmore, sign me up. I would love to see.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Cool
player, cool, interesting guy.
But in this particular scenario, JT Keeper 1, this would be the best case scenario for the Cavs coming away with Cam Johnson and Cam Whitmore. Is it realistic? I don't particularly think so. Next one comes from Black King Kev, who says the Cavs would acquire Noah Clowney and Cam Johnson for LeVert and Okoro. Once again, doesn't necessarily meet that 2 first-round pick mantra, but the money in this instance comes pretty close, even though I do believe Cam Johnson has a trade kicker that brings him up to $27 million, which I don't think is factored into the ESPN trade.
I think that is only for cap and tax reasons. I think he's got some unlikely to hit incentives that basically count against your tax calculator, but they do not count in a trade. That is my understanding. Mm-hmm. Justin, you actually think about the stuff more than I. Am I right on that?
You're correct. Yeah. And what I like about that is looking to add a big man in that too. I think the more realistic or more available one might be Sharp coming from Brooklyn. Yeah, I really, honestly, I like all 3 of those guys. So I just feel like they're probably more likely to want to retain Clowney in any deal.
All right, we got a couple more. Next one comes from Steve Short 86, and in this deal, the Cavs get Cam Johnson. The Nets get Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, a first from the Thunder, a second from the Cavs, and their 2031 first. The Thunder get LeVert and Okoro. My initial thought to this was, if the Thunder are going to be part of a 3-team trade, they
will be the ones
getting Cam Johnson. Yeah,
this is nonsense. No shot.
Hey, I appreciate I had over 30 submissions, so I tried to take some of the ones that were just duplicates of each other out. But
yeah, no shot on that one.
OKC facilitating a 3-team trade where the best player ended up in Cleveland.
Yeah, Sam Presti loves helping his competitors get better.
Yeah, well, shout out to Sam Presti, Emerson College basketball alum. Me and Sam doing great things in the NBA now as Emerson College guys. 2 more here. This next one comes from our friend of the show, Luca, over at realcavsfans.com. Another great forum to check out Cavs content. But Luca has, and I don't even know what trade thing he's using.
This is Spot Track, which is really great.
Spot Track. Okay. In this instance, he is Cam Johnson and Deron Sharp going to Cleveland for LeVert, Niang, Tyson, Thompson, and that 2031 first-round pick. So is this an overpay? If this is what the cost to get Cam Johnson would be.
This is what I think probably looks like the most realistic outcome is. It's a 2-team trade, so you don't have to get a bunch of parties to sign off. And basically what you do is you give away all your long-term assets in both, because Tyson and that 2031 first are your last real cost-controlled tradable assets. That also does your best job at approximating 2 first-round picks because, Tyson obviously was just a first-round pick this last summer. And then it gets you the matching salary. It gets you gets you Cam and the big man without meaningfully disrupting your rotation. It's probably the closest thing to what I would imagine a real package would end up like. Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably your best foot forward. I don't think I wouldn't really see TT being in that deal. Like I think maybe he's included there to get the number of savings that you want to have. But you have to remember, you have to get your roster up to 14, right? So in that instance, you'd have to assign 2 minimum players. All of a sudden, you're right back to where you were. So I think any Cam Johnson deal, you're probably saying we are going to be paying the luxury tax this year. So you kind of have to be under that expectation. I think a lot of the reporting says Brooklyn's looking for expiring contracts. So maybe Sharp wouldn't be included in there. Maybe, the 2 main expiring contracts that the Cavs have are Karis LeVert and Sam Merrill. So maybe that's something they look at in addition to Tyson. But in terms of realistic assets that I could see, being put forward, I think that trade kind of includes them all.
I do
just
see a 3
I'm absolutely shocked that Luka came with a realistic trade request. Of all the crazy fans out there who we love and appreciate, Luka coming with the most realistic one does not surprise me in the least bit.
I do see a 3 for 2 is very possible if the Cavs are going to make a deal like that. And then as a way to kind of duck that tax is to convert one of your 2-ways where, they don't count as much against your cap as a full veteran minimum. So I do think that makes sense. But to Justin's point, I just don't think TT being it actually really probably does much for the Cavs or the Nets.
And the last trade proposal comes from R. Baroff 427. And this one, the same 2 players going to the Nets, Cam Johnson, Day'Ron Sharpe. To the Cavs, the Nets get a 2031 first, a second-round pick from the Pistons, a second round from the Cavs and LeVert. And Isaac Okoro reunites with J.B. Bickerstaff in Detroit. Do you guys see any world where J.B. Bickerstaff helps facilitate a 3-team trade that would land Cam Johnson in Cleveland?
I think the issue there is just there isn't the second first-round pick equivalent going to the Nets more than the Detroit part. I'm sure JB would love to add defense to that Detroit team. Not that he's necessarily in that decision-making role, but I just don't think Brooklyn's getting enough there.
Yeah, the problem that I have with any like Karis Okoro combo going out is all of a sudden you do lose a lot of perimeter juice. And guard defenders, guard initiators, etc. Because if you're holding on to a guy like Niang and that kind of deal, then it's like, all right, well now, and you add Sharp, now you're adding like 4. You have like 6 front court players that need minutes very, very quickly, and all of a sudden you get a little thin on the perimeter. So yeah, I definitely like the RCF submission the most, and I think it's the closest to reality as well.